Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible to you?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Today our invited speaker is Pradipta Shyam Chowdhury, and this is the last day of our international web lecture series. As I announced yesterday, that the second phase of the international web lecture series is going to commence on the 12th. And many of you have requested me for sending the link through email. Actually, because they do not have access to Facebook or do not have any Facebook account, I would like to request you to visit our college website for the link that will be available. The link will be available on the website. It is Onda Thana Mahavidyalaya, ONDA Mahavidyalaya, MAHAVIDYA LA. I will send the link on the chat box during the session. Okay, so you may note down the web address. So when you will go there, visit the site, you will see a registration link. And if you click on the registration link, you will see a form. Fill in the form and automatically you will be registered. There will be no registration fee for the second phase, and also for the first phase, there is no registration fee. And the maximum amount, the maximum number of registered participants, the number is 250, including the speaker, members, and obviously the other teachers from our college. So the registration link will be open for 2 days, 3 days, I hope, because within 3 days, 250 registration uh, will be sent, or more than that, because this thing happened with the SKB University also. They had to stop the registration, and if there is more than 250 or lots of registrations requests, then we shall open the web lecture and we shall stream it via either YouTube Live or Facebook Live or any other interface. Meaning, instead of going for Google Meet, we shall go for a live interface so that everyone can watch the lecture, can listen to the lecture, can join the web lecture series. So, without wasting time, let me introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Pradipta Shyam Chowdhury. He is an assistant professor of English, University of North Bengal, and his area of interest is South Asian studies and gender studies. He has edited 2 volumes, Rabindranath Revisited, Essays on Tagore, and Insiders as Outsiders, Essays on Indian Widows and Widowhood. Article on the third world feminist issues and queer studies have been published in various national journals. Pradipta is like my elder brother. I know him since a long time, since my college days. So, without wasting any more time, let me request Pradipta to deliver his lecture. I hope you will enjoy it. Pradipta, please.
Hello.
Yes, you're
Uh,
audible.
am I audible?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Uh, a very good afternoon to all of you, and thanks, Sourav, for your kind words. Let's start. So, today we will be discussing something on. Is it okay with my sound? My sound is okay.
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
yes. Okay,
Okay. So today we will discuss something about social distancing and marginalization and the lockdown life, but in a different context. Now, with this coronavirus and everything, we are very much used to with certain phrases like lockdown life and social distancing, which are in somewhere other related to the concepts and ideas of marginalization. Now, uh, today, while discussing social distancing and the lockdown life, we will bring in the film by Deepa Mehta, that is Watered, and the novelized version of the film by BAPSI Sidhwa, that is the same name. Actually, the novel was written following the film script of Deepa Mehta. Now, social distancing is something, a few days back, the famous principle, the transgender principle, Manabi Bandyopadhyay said regarding social distancing and lockdown life that This is something new to the mainstream people, but we, from the very beginning, before the days of Corona, from the very beginning of our life, we who are not in that sense the mainstream animals in the society, we experience a different type of lockdown life and social distancing. The same is applicable in the case of the widows, basically the Hindu widows in India. Now, I would like to start my discussion by citing a line from the famous Shiva Mohini Devi. Actually, Kalyani Datta, in her book Pinjore Boshia, quotes from Shiva Mohini Devi. Shiva Mohini Devi became a widow when she was only 10 years old, and later she got remarried to Sri Chondi Charan Ghosh, was a follower of Keshav Chandra Sen. And actually, Vidyasagar initiated the marriage of Shiva Mohini and Chondi Charan Babu. So we get this idea with story of Shiva Mohini Devi from Kalyani Datta's Pinjore Boshia. So there Shiva Mohini Devi writes, I will translate the lines in English also. আমার বড় ইচ্ছে বিধবা ভোজন করাই, হিন্দুদের কোনো ক্রিয়াকর্মে তাদের তো কোনো জায়গা নেই। মানুষ গরুকে দেয়, কাককে দেয়, শেয়ালকে দেয়, গাছকেও দেয়, কিন্তু বিধবাদের কিছুই পাওয়ার নেই। I have a wish to feed the widows. They have no space in any Hindu rituals. We feed the cows, the crows, the jackals, even the trees, but the widows have nothing to get. Now, these lines by Shiva Mohini Devi actually brings into focus the subhuman condition that were assigned to the widows in the Hindu society. Now, here again, from Manusmriti, from the Dharma Shastras, chapter 5, verse 156 to 161, here we get that the Manusmriti says, this is in English, the widow should be long suffering until death, self-restrained and chaste. A virtuous wife who remains chaste when her husband died goes to heaven. A woman who is unfaithful to her husband is reborn in the womb of the jackal. So you will see that those who want to transgress the very ideas, the very laws and diktats that were constructed by the society, which was controlled by patriarchy, that they are assigned or they have to live a subhumanized condition, or they will be treated as subhumans, though we are now trying to change our ideas about human and subhuman and non-human for the recent incidents that are going on. Now, in the 2010 census, we find that 40 million widows are there, and which comprise 10% of the total female population in India. So still the picture is same, and the perilous condition of the widows that still persists. Now, my question will be why, and this why will be contextualized in the very work of BAPSI SIDHWA'S novel Water, and as well as the film by Deepa Mehta, that is Water. Now, Deepa's film was that tried to focus on the lives of the Hindu widows, and because Deepa was trying to bring into focus the perilous condition of the widows who were relegated to the ashrams in Vrindavan and Varanasi. So that was a very common custom that we find in the Hindu societies, in the society, that when a woman becomes a widow, and if she is young, so she will be clean shaven, her head will be shaved, and she had to wear white sari. She will be prescribed certain foods, so she cannot eat certain things, and at the final she is generally dumped either into the puja ghar. She will spend the rest of her life worshipping or spending her life in the puja ghar, or she will be sent to the packed off to a widow ashram, either in Varanasi or Vrindavan. So Deepa Mehta's film actually wanted to focus the lives of the widows in these ashrams in Varanasi and Vrindavan. But then he changed the story because there were certain threats that were coming from different corners of from different Hindu communal organizations, and the shooting was stopped in the middle because of this disturbances. Later, Deepa went to Sri Lanka and shot the rest of the film. And she had to change certain names of the places and characters and certain situations also. So Deepa had to what to say? She was compelled to bring certain adjustments in her agenda, because otherwise she wouldn't be given the permission to shot the film. Okay, so that is the thing. So this kind of pressures and this kind of operations are still there, and one who is interested in bringing into focus the perilous conditions of the widows, they are either they are oppressed in discursively or physically or in any other ways, sometimes legally also. Now, Deepa's particular movie, Water, that was taken up by Sidhwa, and Sidhwa made certain changes in the story. And what was that change? That we see that in the film Water, the film starts with Chuhia and her old husband, who was in the cremation ground, and we find that Chuhia was undertaking, and she was she was given certain, she was brought into certain rituals of becoming a widowhood, that is certain sort of rites de passage. So that is the thing, that she was having her head shaven, and she was given a white sari to wear. So all these things, the film started with this kind of scenes. But in the novel we find that BAPSI Sidhwa starts the novel with Chuhia amidst the lush green atmosphere, and she is a very little girl in a village, and she is playing with a little puppy. So the novel wants to focus on the changes that happens in the life of a woman before, after she becomes a widow. So this marriage and the death of the husband and the consequent widowhood, these are the certain phases that a woman sometimes has to pass through, and that uh, actually marks the position that a woman faces, that what a woman enjoys in the society, how she is treated, how she is assigned a social role, and what are the consequences that a woman face while facing and while experiencing certain halls of the uh, uh, patriarchal practices. Now, we see that Chuhia, in the novel, Chuhia is a little girl who is playing with her a puppy, and later we see that Chuhia's father Somnath comes, and he starts discussing about her marriage, and that he has got a good relation, that a man is there, but he is very old, and Somnath wants Chuhia to get married to that old man, despite that difference of age. And she says that what is interesting here, that the words of Somnath that we find, that Somnath says that a girl becomes a woman, and a girl attains an identity only when she is married. So without a husband, a girl has got no social position of her own. And when a girl gets married, she becomes a Saubhagyashali and Sumangali. Now, this particular terms of Sumangali and Saubhagyavati or Saubhagyashali, all these terms are attributed to a woman to show that how a woman can be beneficial to the society in general. So if a woman is Saubhagyavati and Sumangali means one who is beneficial, or one who has the power to benefit the society. But without a husband, a woman is never a Sumangali and a Saubhagyavati. So neither an unmarried woman is Sumangali and Saubhagyavati. An unmarried woman only becomes or only acquires those qualities when she gets married, and nor the widow who loses her husband remains Sumangali and Saubhagyavati. Now, what is the politics behind this assignment of certain attributes to the women, that Sumangali and Saubhagyavati? That is, what is our idea about womanhood? A woman becomes a woman. So all these things we find from so, so all these things we find from Simone de Beauvoir, that sex is something biological and gender is something very social. But with the passage of time, the more we became acquainted with gender studies and the gender discourses, we find that neither sex nor gender is something which is very much physical or something which is innate. All these we acquire with our relationship with our uh, activities and performances within the society. So womanhood is something that is attributed to the woman by the society. The patriarchal society actually makes woman a woman with certain qualities, that she's a Sumangali, she is a Saubhagyavati. Otherwise, the woman can become, or the woman can come up as a threat to the society. And the same thing happens when we find that the woman loses her husband. When her husband dies, the woman becomes an individual self who has nobody to control. When a woman is young, she is controlled by her father, then the father or brother, after marriage, the husband, and when she becomes old, the son looks after the woman. But when a woman becomes a widow, and when she is very young and a widow, then what happens? The woman becomes an individual identity who is not controlled by a male member of the society. And that becomes something, a sort of threat to the society, because the sexuality of the woman remains open and there is nobody to control the female body as well as the female sexuality. And that's why the widow is treated, a widow, and especially young widow, is treated as a social threat to patriarchy. And that's why we find there's these practices of sati, that a woman, when she's young, when a young woman, when becomes a widow, what happens? She was given the order to have to go to Shahamaran, or she had to go for the sati, because the young woman's sexuality is a threat to the society. Now, sati, the custom of sati, that was abolished with the help of Ramahan. And what happened later? We see that when the sati custom was abolished, the sending of the woman to the ashrams became more prominent, because if a woman lives within the very household, that may create certain problems and disturbances within the patriarchal structures and spaces of household. That's why a woman should be sent to the ashram. That is a sort of marginalized space that is assigned to the woman. And in the story, we find that Chuhia was sent to the ashram in Rawalpur, and then the story starts. And what is that story? And then the story starts that Chuhia no longer remains a very stupid widow. So Chuhia once started questioning the very ideas that were actually imposed by patriarchy upon the Hindu widows. And here we see that what he asks, when she was taken to the ashram, she asks her father, Father, where I'm going? His father says, your husband is dead. You are a widow now. Chuhia asks, for how long, Baba? Now, this particular thing, he is actually taking this concept of widowhood as a temporary phase, that after the death of our near and dear ones, we all mourn for a certain period of time, say for 13 days, for 1 month, or 15 days or something. But all these phases are temporary phases when our society and religion expects us to wear certain kinds of clothes and certain types of foods. We are given certain rituals to perform. But see, Chuhia here questions that for how long she has to remain a widow. Is this widowhood a sort of temporary phase? But the question remains unanswered, because a woman's period of mourning after the death of her husband is a permanent, it's a permanent thing. She had to mourn permanently, unlike the other members of the family. And Chuhya starts questioning the very system with this basic question: for how long, Baba? And then she questions that for how long I have to stay here. That here means the very ashram. And that space which is assigned to the widow, is it the space only assigned for the women, the widows? If the husband dies and the woman becomes a widow, what happens to the male members of the society? Are there male widows? So this is the second question that we find Chuhya is asking to the other inmates of the society, other inmates of the ashram, where she says, where is the ashram for the male widows? But interestingly enough, we find that there is no such thing as a male widow. We have the very English word widower, but I don't know there is any Bengali word for a male widow. So my question is there any sort of discursive difference between the word widower and male widow? So these particular questions were actually posed by Chuhya. So what is the fate for the male widows? Do they really face the same thing as she is facing after losing her husband? And when she questions this, when she asked this question, Sidhwa writes, there was a stunned silence. And then the pandemonium broke out. So she asked this question amidst the other inmates of the ashram. And what was the reaction of the other members? A chorus of scolding erupted from the shocked widows. Good God, what a horrible thing to say. God protect our men from such a fate. May your tongue burn. Pull out her tongue and throw it in the river. I'll do it. They shriek like harpies. Just a minute. Please. So it is the other inmates of the ashram. They are the very person who actually they are protesting against these questions posed by Chuhya. Why? Because they are very much indoctrinated to the patriarchal ideologies that actually dictate the woman to be dumped into the widow ashram, to have the fate of the widow with a good lot of proscriptions and many restrictions and such things. So all these things Sidhwa is trying to focus in the novel, that when Chuhya starts questioning the very other members of the ashram, the other widows, they are protesting. So, but Chuhya is, I have said earlier, she is not no such stupid widow. And she goes on questioning. And later on, we will find that Chuhya is getting other widows by her side. Despite being a very small girl, she is the person, she is the very identity, the very person who starts questioning and later gets supporters behind her back. Now, there is another widow character in the novel, Madhumati. Now, Madhumati is a widow and the head of that ashram. Now, the story of Madhumati, that is a very problematic story. Madhumati starts treating Chuhya very affectionately. She says that, you poor child, how I feel for you. I was also very young when my bastard husband dies. Just note the word she's using. When my bastard husband died. And complaints against the social system to the eunuch. Madhumati has a friend, the eunuch Gulabi, and she tells, when I became a widow, I boldly asked for a part of my dowry and some ancestral property which I could leave off. They took care of me, all right. The two bastards raped me for a week. I was shorn and beaten and taken 20 miles into the wilderness and discarded. Now, this is the story of Madhumati. Madhumati, who becomes the very agent of imposing certain patriarchal dictates for the widows, who apparently appears as an oppressor, who oppresses the widows, who actually performs certain rites which makes the lives of the widows perilous in the ashram. She also has her own story. Now, when we get the story of Madhumati, the question that comes up, why she subscribes to the patriarchal doctrines that oppresses the women, then can I come to the conclusion that Madhumati was not that much courageous like that of Chuhia? What Chuhia can question, Madhumati cannot. And Madhumati had to subscribe, had to conform to the patriarchal ideologies. And then when she conformed, she became the master, the head of the widow ashram. And we find there are innumerable stories of various widows who had to face the same problem. And later they became the machinery, the agent, the accomplice of the patriarchal ideology. The friend of Madhumati, we find, is the eunuch friend of Madhumati, Gulabi, and who is actually a helping hand of Madhumati, who also helps Madhumati to run the prostitute business within the ashram. And now this is a very interesting story. So we have a very short period of time, but I will try to touch the various issues here. Now, this is a very interesting thing, that the same society which disallows any woman who becomes a widow to have to perform and celebrate her sexuality, who is prescribed to enjoy the sexual pleasures, certain foods, wearing certain dresses which are actually related to the sexuality of the woman, that particular system also forces the widows to perform the sexual rites as a prostitute. Why? Now, here we will find that the issue becomes much more problematic. The economic condition is also a very important feature that we find here. Now, these ashrams were actually run by certain rich men who were from the higher rung of the society, the Seths, the Brahmins, the Zamindars and people. And the widows used to collect some alms by singing bhajans, and they used to live a very frugal life. Now, for the overall running of the ashram, they need the patronization of certain rich men. And these rich people, they sometimes use certain young widows as prostitutes. They were sent to the quotas of those rich men, and they were enjoyed. They work as prostitutes, they bring money, and the ashram is run. Now, what actually problematizes the issue is that, what I have said earlier, that sexuality is the thing which becomes something very disturbing for the society. And again, it is something which is also exploited by the society for certain reasons. Ultimately, the widow remains a helpless creature within the society. And why this widowhood? Because the women were told from the very, in 19th century also we find that there was a general belief that if the woman gets education, she will become a widow. Because the widowhood is something which is a very fatal and very frightening thing for a woman. A woman were not even ready to hear the very word widowhood. And that's why it was very easy for the system to inflict the very idea that Ingreji porle bidhova hobe. If you are educated, if you are exposed to education or English, which becomes a very symbol of Western education and enlightenment, you will become a widow. So all these things were there, which actually were instrumental in bringing the life of the woman to the very margins of the society. And what we were telling about the prostitution and the widow remarriage. The widow remarriage was there within the Hindu custom, as we see in certain forms of Leviratic marriages in northern part of India, where when a husband dies, or when a husband used to die, the woman the wife was married to the very close, the brother of the husband. And the same thing we find in a different form in Mahabharata also. Actually, Draupadi was married to 5 brothers. So they have certain different political and cultural connotations also. But it has also a connection with the idea of Leviratic marriages, when a woman gets married to the brother of the husband after the husband dies. And that's why we have the word Devar, means Dityo Bor, or the second husband, who remains as a stepney to the woman. But here also we see that the woman is never given the independence and the choice to choose her own life partner. A woman has to get, the woman never marries, but the woman is married, and she has to marry to someone which has been assigned by the society, which has been approved by the society, and that is the thing. So widow remarriage was something which Vidyasagar started in 1856. It was not something related to Leviratic marriages, but it was very open, and it was a very modernist thing that Vidyasagar wanted to start, but they also had their own problems. We will find in different documents that many widow remarriages were done, and people who were apparently very educated people, they were interested in widow remarriage only to get a lump sum amount from Vidyasagar. Vidyasagar used to collect money for the grooms of the widow remarriage, and to get established in the society as a very modernist, enlightened person, that yes, I am the person who has remarried a widow, so I have come up as a Masiha, as a rescuer. In the story, in the novel of Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, Krishnakantir Wheel, we find there's a character that is Horolal. Horolal is actually threatening his father, Krishnakanto, and later Rohini also, that he is actually using the very concept of widow remarriage. He says that if you don't give me the lion's share of your property, I will remarry a widow. And because Krishnakanto was a very traditional man, who was a very orthodox type of man, it came to him as a sort of threat. But later, he did not care for it. And the same Horolal used the very concept of widow remarriage as something to lure Rohini, that if you steal the documents and the will of Krishnakanto, I will remarry you. You know, Vidyasagar has started widow remarriage and all these things. So widow remarriage was something which started with a very big ideas, and it started with so many promises, but actually it turned out to be something which became an instrument for the apparently educated, enlightened gentry of Kolkata, the Babu Samaj, who wanted to get established as an enlightened person. So still we have 40 million widows. That is the story. Now, another point that I would like to point out here is the food, and the food as a part of culture, and how the kitchen or the Bengali heshil becomes the very site of kitchen politics. Here we will see that in an essay by Edmund Leach, the essay is Oysters, Smoked Salmon and Stilton Cheese. There we see that Leach writes, the significant thing about such categories is that they are accorded very different levels of social prestige. That is food. Food is accorded very different levels of social prestige. Some foods are appropriate only to men, others only to women. Some foods are forbidden to children. Some can be eaten only on ceremonial occasion. So therefore, Leach says that cooking is thus universally a means by which nature is transformed into culture, and categories of cooking are always peculiarly appropriate for use as symbols of social differences. So food becomes, or the very concept of cooking, the very activity of cooking becomes a very thing that divides, that creates cultural hierarchy, and that divides the society. So widows were not allowed to eat certain foods. Certain foods are there which should be consumed by men. In certain foods are there that the children should not eat. When we were children, we were not allowed to drink tea. And later when we grew up, we were given coffee and tea. So this kind of prescriptions and proscriptions are there within the society. Now what happens, there is a character in the water, in the novel Water as well as in the film, that is Bua, that is Chuhia's Bua, who always dreams of eating sweets, but she was never given sweet to eat. And here we find that certain proscriptions actually are the instruments with which the widows were marginalized. And here I would like to quote from Rukmini Baya Nair, who says that because the widows were marginalized even within the kitchen space, even within the very domestic space. Should I end now? Am I taking time? Or can I continue for 5 more minutes?
You may continue.
Okay.
Please continue.
You may continue.
Oh, okay. Now we find, that we find Rukmini Bhaya says that because the widows were prescribed certain types of foods, they actually strategically took up this prescription as a power with which they created certain palatable Bengali dishes from the vegetable odds and ends. Now here we will also, I would like to go back to Krishnakante Vil and Rohini again, that Bankim Chandra describes Rohini as Randhone she Draupadi Bishesh. Rohini was a very good cook. Now Rohini was actually compared to the character of Draupadi. Now if we focus on the character Draupadi, we will find that Draupadi was the wife of 5 husbands, and Draupadi was the character in the epic who, despite various operations that we see, she was the character who could celebrate and who was actually successful in celebrating his sexuality. Okay, and she was beyond those social rigorous rules which prescribe monogamy and other sexual restrictions. Now, a widow, actually, I don't know Bankim Chandra did it consciously or unconsciously, but Bankim Chandra did it. She compared Rohini with Draupadi in the context of cooking. So cooking is something which came up as a very powerful instrument, as a very powerful instrument of recuperation. And the widows, by cooking, by inventing certain palatable dishes, you know the name of the Bengali name, the Chowdhury and Chechki and all these vegetable dishes, which came up as a recuperative contribution of the widows to the Bengali cookery, who were brutally treated within the society. The society which marginalized them, they answered back with the meager things, or the meager quality of things, the meager amount of food or vegetables that they used to get. They answered back with their own invention. So this is also something which actually becomes very relevant in the discussion of the widows. Now, coming to the end, we will see that I was talking of social distancing and marginalization and lockdown life. So all these 3 things I brought within within brackets, because the widows who were not allowed to do certain things, they still have this lockdown life and social distancing. But within this socially distanced existence and within this lockdown life, they still tried their best to celebrate their life with whatever they have as means of living. And here in Water, I would like to end by pointing out that we find there are 2 characters. One is a character, Shakuntala, and Shakuntala was the woman who comes up as the mother of Chuhia. Chuhia's filiative mother, Bhagya, who had actually no voice to control the life of Chuhia. She actually conform to the wishes of Chuhia's father, that whatever you are telling, you are my absent, whatever you are telling, or whatever uh, you are deciding, that is okay. I will conform to that. But Chuhia gets a new affiliative mother within the ashram, who actually takes her to the path of truth, who takes her to the path of life. And in the end, we see it is Shakuntala who is taking Chukia to the Gandhi woman, not Gandhi, but the Gandhi woman. So that is a different type of, that will bring in more uh, discussion about Gandhi and Gandhi woman, who actually takes her to the woman who was a follower of Gandhi. And Chuhia starts her life towards, with her journey towards truth. So this is something I can say about widowhood. If I get more time uh, later, I can discuss the things, and let us have more discussions to questions and answers, because is it okay, Saurabh?
Yes, yes. Do you want to do you want to one further to say something further? Do you want more time?
No, it's okay. Okay.
So now the floor is open for the audience. I think it's a very interesting topic for discussion, and everyone present in the webinar is familiar to these things. So I would like to request the audience to ask the questions, or if you have any suggestion or comment to add on, you can go ahead.
Hello,
Yes.
Hello.
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 So I have already sent my question in my chat box.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
Understood.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah, in two parts actually.
Is
yeah. Uh,
okay, Pradipta?
in Himachal Pradesh, we are seeing at some places that the in-laws have remarried their daughter-in-law and sent her to her new husband's and daughter-in-law's house as their own daughter. For example, there is a village named Bat Kalyan Batu under Haroli subdivision, Una HP. Okay. Okay. And so what happened in Himachal Pradesh? That the in-laws have remarried their daughter-in-law and sent. Huh, that is something which
Hello,
is.
hello,
Hmm,
hello.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hello.
It it has another part, A part.
Yes,
It's a
yeah,
it's a B part. It has A part.
just a minute. Do you see that such type of
Yes.
exploitation videos still exists in our society? Any example? Do you think that even education is not helping such ladies? Yeah, education.
Hello, Pradipta. You are not audible. Hello, 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 Pradipta. Hello. Hello.
Okay, I've replugged it again. I've unplugged and then.
Yes,
Hello,
yes,
am I audible now?
yes. You are
Okay,
audible.
Yes, sir. Yes.
okay. Thank you. Uh, so actually, what you have said that there are some cases where we find that the in-laws are making arrangements to get their in daughter-in-laws married, and they're sending their daughter-in-laws to the new house as their daughters. That is something very much commendable. But my point was that is there any kind of social
I think you may proceed without the headphone. It will
Okay.
be still okay. If you proceed, there is a problem with the headphones. Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes. Yes. Perfectly.
Yeah,
Perfectly.
I'm audible, na? Okay.
Yes.
So, so what I'm telling that the precedence that Sri has given, that is quite commendable. That some in-laws that you have seen in a famous serial a few years back, that is Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi, and there we found that Mihir Virani died. So his family was ready to remarry Tulsi Virani to the friend of uh, Mihir. But what we saw at the end, that Mihir Virani came back. That did not happen, because there are certain problems with the cultural, social, and religious sanctions. Those who are really enlightened, those who want to, who are really progressive in their attitude, they are doing this. But the problem lies with the social customs and traditions. Still, we have no such legal sanctions, are the cultural and religious sanctions of certain marriages. And that's why we find that these are a very few, these are just stray incidents that are happening. But what about the general condition of the 40 million widows who comprise 10% of the total population of Indian women? I have seen certain posts and tweets in Facebook as well as in Twitter that a woman who comes from a certain religious belief, she says that this modernist agenda has no right to subsume our cultural traditions. Sati is something which has a great cultural tradition, and they have no right to stop this. Still in 2020, we are having this kind of messages that people, or women especially, they are actually endorsing, promoting the custom of sati. So what Segalji has said, that is quite commendable, and we want more such cases to come up. But still, the problem lies until and unless there is a general awareness, the problem will not be solved. Actually, thing is, marginalization is something, and the minority problem is something which is very much deeply embedded within our social structure. So if I say, if I say that I'm very much sympathetic to the marginalized people, one who is marginalized, one who is a minority, whether he's a sexual minority or a religious minority or a social minority, any kind of minority, I'm very, very sympathetic. That even shows my sense of superiority. So the better thing is we should try to erase any sense of marginalization and any sense of minority. So that is the thing. So what Sir has said, Segalji has said, that is quite commendable. But that is not something which is very common. So we want such things to come up. And these things can be taken up as precedences. Education is something, there's another question. Often it is seen that just a minute, often it is seen that the elderly women in the house have become instrumental in rigorous practice of widowhood within the domestic premises. It is the traditional training which, that is what I have said regarding while discussing the character of Madhumati. While discussing the character of Madhumati, I said that why Madhumati subscribed to the patriarchal diktats and the patriarchal discourses. So these women actually were not that much courageous and any problem? So actually these women were not that much courageous to question. Had they been able to question the system, they would have done that. Without being able to raise their voice, they rather conformed because they found that is more easy thing to do. Because we have seen that when Madhumati is talking about her husband, one who is living a life of widowhood for the death of her husband, she is not doing it of her own. She has been forced to do that. That's why whenever she is referring to her husband, she is using the word bastard. That when my bastard husband died, That means that she has no respect and love for her husband. Why? That is not, there is no love and respect for her husband because she has been forced to live that kind of life. This enforced widowhood is something. Nobody wants this life of prescription. Nobody wants this life of restriction. If we take it more logically, a man, don't we think that the mother and father loves their son very much? Is very dear to the parents. But what happens when that particular person dies? Only her wife has to lead the life of widowhood. And if widowhood is something very natural, we would have seen that after becoming widow, a woman actually stops menstruating. So nature actually does not want this widowhood. It is not something very naturally sanctioned. It is something which is socially constructed. I'm raising the basic question, had it been something very natural, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Audible.
Something very natural, we would have seen that when a woman becomes a widow, she will have a sort of menopause. But still she retains her sexuality, her fertility. But it is a society which actually imposes this kind of restrictions because the widow's sexuality, a woman who remains uncontrolled, whose body remains an uncontrolled territory, is threat. And when something comes up as a threat, that thing also becomes very interesting to some people. Okay. So that's why these issues are still relevant in 2020. I would have been happy that after 5 more years, I won't get the chance to discuss anything like widows and widowhoods. I wish that sometime that day will come. Okay.
Okay, is there
Thank
any
you,
more
sir.
question? Any more question from the audience?
And Sourav, you can share
Yes.
my phone number with them also if anybody wants.
Okay.
If they want, they can speak to me also. That's not a problem.
Okay.
So I think I was okay with my discussion.
Hello.
Hello?
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible?
Sir, you talked about some Bengali dishes like chechki and chowdhury, and you said that it became a sign of protest for the widow. So, um, will you please analyze that? How come such foods it became a kind of a weapon for the widow to
Okay, Moitri.
protest against the thing? Yes, sir. Yes,
Moitri,
sir.
have you ever tasted chechki and chowdhury?
Yes, sir.
Do you like
Definitely.
it? Do you like it? I like it very
Yes,
much.
kind of. Yes,
I
sir.
like it very much. My grandmother, my Thakuma, my grandmother, she used to cook wonderful chechki and chowdhury. And
Yes, sir.
my mother, me, my father, and other members, we all used to wait when my Thakuma will cook. Thakuma means grandmother will cook those things. So that these plates were so palatable. And just think of the ingredients they used for cooking those chechki and chowdhury. So what Rukmini Bhayana said that because they were marginalized to the certain corners of the kitchen, Niramish Heshel and Amish Heshel, the veg corner and the non-veg corner of the kitchen was also divided. So you know that kitchen is generally called the women's space, the female space. Actually patriarchy assigns the kitchen as the female space. The woman used to spend most of her life. Now we all cook, I also cook sometimes, so that is different, but generally it is assigned as a female space. So that is also divided between the veg corner and the non-veg corner. So those who are married women, they can go to the non-veg corner as well as to the veg corner because they have certain social sanctions. But a widow who comes up as a threat to the society, she is even marginalized within the female space with certain odd and end ingredients. And with that, they are cooking something which becomes much more tasty sometimes than the non-veg dishes. So
Okay,
if you ask me to choose between biryani and chachuri, sometimes I would have chosen chachuri. It is so tasty and it's so good for health. Okay,
yes,
so all these
okay,
are some peripheral discussions and many things will come up.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so I think we should end now, Sourav.
Thank you, sir.
Let us check if there are any more question. Do you have any more question, audience? I think yes. I think there is no more question. Now we shall start the valedictory session. Our honorable principal, sir, Dr. Vijayakant Dubey, is with us, and he will address the valedictory session. So I would like to request, sir, valedictory session. So are you there? Okay, just okay. There is some technical problem, and he's rejoining. But before he rejoins, let me introduce the man, Dr. Vijayakant Dubey. He actually belongs to the Department of English, and it is a matter of great pride for us that our principal is a teacher of that English literature and culture studies. But he has another identity. He is a very famous Indian English poet also, and some of his poems have been published in some international journals, magazines, anthologies, and his interviews have been published in the history of Indian English literature books. In some of them, you will find his name, Dr. Vijayakant Dubey. So I personally requested our principal, sir, to recite uh, any one of his poems. I think he has joined. Sir, are you there?
Yes. Huh?
Hello, sir. I request everyone to wait just 1 minute. Okay, while you join, let me make an announcement. E-certificates will be issued to every participant who has registered by sending their emails, designation, and phone number. Some of you have not sent your designation to me, only the name and phone number have been sent. So it's a bit difficult for us to know whether you are a faculty member or a scholar or a student. So those who have not yet sent me your Z designation, even if you are a student, you have to write the name of your college and the same you are at present pursuing, so that in the certificate it shows. Okay, and the certificates will start issuing from tomorrow. If you do not get the certificate till 15, you may contact me personally by sending me email that, sir, I registered, but I did not receive the certificate, but not before 15. Okay, there are lots of people, so it will take time to send the e-certificates one by one after another. Okay. Hello, sir, are you with us? Okay, I think there is some serious technical problem, so we have to call it a day. But before that, I would like to thank all the participants from the core of my heart. That was the first attempt, this international web lecture series from our college, the Onda Thana Mahavidyalaya and the Department of English. We never had thought that so many of you would show true interest in it, and we are really awestruck to find you every day listening to all the lectures with the utmost devotion, asking questions, exchanging views. I salute to you, all the audience. It was really lucky for us. So thank you very much, and I would like to request you to attend the second phase of the International Web Lecture Series, because some of the phenomenal speakers will be there in the second phase of this International Web Lecture Series that is going to commence on and from 12th of June. So Pradipta da, thank you very much, Dada.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, for giving us your time and delivering the
I also like
engaging
the
lecture.
session.
Yes.
That was a very engaging one, and thanks for the questions also.
Okay.
Thanks for the questions.
Welcome, welcome. Does anyone want to say anything regarding the 6-day program, or should we call it a day? Does any audience, any member from the audience, any participant? No. Okay. So let us call it a day. Thank you very much. I think.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
The whole seminar webinar was a bouquet of different flowers.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
And
sir.
beautiful flowers. Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. We hope to see you in the next phase also. Okay. Goodbye.
I will surely join.
Okay. Give us leave. Goodbye.